Welcome to the tutorial on the first 20 minutes of Hardspace Shipbreaker. We're going to be looking at how the Shipbreaker moves around in orbit, some of the cutting mechanics, and as he breaks down his first little nacelles all the way up to his first little ship. So I hope you enjoy. I'm going to be commentating over on things I find interesting along the way.
I'll be your eyes and ears when you're in the yard. Used to be a cutter myself until there were some complications with one of my clone jobs, but never you mind about that. Let's get to work.
So at this part in the tutorial, we're really trying to learn the controls. So we're going to just see how we're going to get our work orders, which is how we're going to break the ships down, in which order, do we need nacelles, do we need extra parts, and then we're going to get to grips with the thrusters and how to ascend and descend. And what I found was the most useful was the control brake, because when you're moving around in 3D and you're using 0G, you seem to float everywhere, and sometimes you just want to break yourself in one position. So as we're doing this tutorial, you can kind of see the graphics. It looks pretty. It's nothing special. It's pretty almost polygon driven, some nice particle effects, but in general it works. The idea that you can cut and move things around in complete freedom and cut any way you want is a great technical feat, which I think the team did a great job on.
We call them rolls. Give them a shot. Okay.
So now we get to use the grapple, and this is one of your primary tools, this and the cutter, and the idea is you can pull things off and towards you, and later on you'll be able to set tethers as you upgrade. So the grapple is upgradable as you move forward, and so is the cutting instruments. And then you're going to put that in the barge. So the barge is designed to put all of the goods that you want to ship off. So that's antennas, nacelles, there's some packages you can put into it. And then on the right hand side and left is your furnace and your processor for different types of metals.
Salvage. Another billion or so of them antennas, and you will have completely wiped out your debt. I'm kidding, of course.
And this is another great thing I love about the world that they're building, is this guy that came into space is in so much debt, this $1 billion worth of debt, and he's only making like a few $1,000s or, you know, a couple $100,000 per ship that he rips apart. So this idea you're in indebted servitude to try and get on this dream of space travel, to me was really interesting of this mega corporation. So here you go, the cutter. This is the cutting beam. So you heat up the joints that you can cut that you identify with your scanner, and then they just disintegrate. If you hold it too long, the beam can overheat your guy and you catch on fire and you lose some health. So that's a cool mechanic to make sure you're accurate and that you're continuing to not overuse it. And then you've got back to the grapple, and with you have the ability to push things and objects around so that you can then direct them towards where you want to go.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
So we're going to go secure the second nacelle now, and you heard a little audio cue that said, oh, the barge has received the first one, which is great, because at the end of the day, these objects are going to float around in different directions, so it's great to know that you actually secured the cargo the way you wanted it to. Now, a key here, I think, and throughout the game, is think ahead. So when I cut this, I moved back, I was like, I can fire this nacelle straight down to the barge, and therefore, it's the path of least resistance. It's like Lego in reverse.
That's what it's all about, Cutter. The more work orders you complete, the closer you get to hitting your certification quotas. Go ahead and see where you're at on earning your first cert.
So as I said earlier, you're going to unlock more things, and part of that is certifications in order to actually get bigger and bigger ships to break down. It's also going to allow you to get different upgrades as you level up through the game. Better tethers, stronger tethers, more tethers, better cutting instruments, and things like that. So you're going to see that when we open up later on in a second. We're going to open up that menu and check it out. But for now, we've kind of finished the tutorial, the very first navigation tutorial, and we're going to head back to our home. So this is a cool way to finish your day, just like a real worker. You got to go back to your bed and sleep it off for the next day. So here we go, we're approaching the hub, so we're going inside, and this is your base, really. This is where you finish every day, it's where you start every day, it's where you buy your upgrades, and you can see, look, we're like $999 million in debt, and after salvaging that, we made $180,000, so we got a lot more work to do for the man before we get to live our space dream here. But now you can see the equipment. So as you select the equipment, you've got cutter, grapple sources, and all of them have large numbers of upgrades that are available throughout the game. So all these unlocks also benefit you by making things easier for when you're breaking apart bigger ships. And you also unlock them through getting more and more work orders completed and getting credits to put towards these upgrades. So at this point, we can go back to continue the salvage. So one of your ships isn't just done in one go. You go out multiple days to break apart the ship. So you can say, today I'm going to target the reactor, tomorrow I'm going to target the cells, as you keep going out. And then you have a limited number of days that you can actually go and break them down.
Nice work there, Cutter. It's time to take the training wheels off and let you loose on this thing.
So here we come out with the upgraded cutting instrument. It's a saw blade. So we can go to the ships here and we can cut out panels now, not just small couplings. You can still use it for couplings, but now we can start getting the big ship breaking work underway.
Not right, Cutter. Go get 'em, Tiger. We were out.
So I noticed when using the grapple, sometimes you really have to throw it to the side, almost like launch it as you're swinging. And these heavy items take more and more force, and you'll get upgrades to help you in the future, but I found the best way of doing this was to kind of peel them away from the ship, and then get behind them and hammer them there with your grapple's push power.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
So you can see as I'm trying to move this that the grapple is going red. I think that's overstressing the grapple. I'm assuming that as you upgrade the grapple, you're going to get better and better grappling abilities. But for now, you got to be very careful to just edge it slowly the direction that you want to take it. And then really, again, you use that push power in order to shove them into the processing plant or into the furnace.
Processing valuable objects. Credits awarded.
So you may have been wondering how I know which to put down the processor and through the furnace. It comes down to when you highlight an object like we're doing right now, right above the oxygen bar, you can kind of see it says processor or furnace, and therefore you know which direction to put it. Now we're going to use a saw blade for the first time, and you can see here how I tried to line it up as precisely as I could to cut out as bigger pieces as I could. But the thing is, I found the best way to sort of line this up was using the roll keys in order to sort of just position myself just right. Now it took me a little while to kind of master the ability to move around in space. It's kind of different when you're moving around in complete 3 dimensions. It's really easy to lose your bearings. My advice is remember that you can hit the dead stop. So if you're just floating around, you're not sure where you are, just dead stop, and then you can rotate around and look and check where you are so you know what you're doing. So this is another one of the salvageable items, the soft crate. So we're able to pull those out, fire them to the barge. If you have more than you need, you can still salvage them past the work order, but then you get bonus credits, which help pay off your debt quicker. And we all want to pay our debt off quicker, right? I gotta say, I love the soundtrack. It's this Western style soundtrack that makes it feel like space is that Wild West frontier where you're just going in there doing a hard day's work to just make some honest money, and I really like that about the world.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
So I just got the last bit of aluminium to get for the work order. And then you could break apart more, as they called it, stripping the buffalo. So you could actually go ahead and get more and more parts out of this little ship. I think when this gets to the big ships, this is going to be a great addictive factor. Like, could I tear this down? And how can I most efficiently tear this down?
Nice job, Cutter. Now get back to your hab to end your shift and spend them shiny new LYNX tokens on upgrading your gear. We've wrapped.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
So you gotta love the world here. You're looking back, you're seeing these giant vessels in the background, more shipbreakers, and you're just one guy in this super cog of industry. And I find it fascinating because you're so concentrated on getting the perfect shipbreak done that you forget that there's all this other stuff going on around you.
Well, congratulations on completing certification rank 2 there, Cutter. Now that you've proven you kind of know what you're doing out there, LYNX has a present for you. Go ahead and make your way to the equipment.
So we just purchased the Tether Upgrade, which is really great. You're going to see how we use it, but the ability to sort of like fire at one object and tether it to another and it pulls it towards it is a great way of stripping the ship back bit by bit. So now we finished the first little tutorial, we get to select a bigger ship to break down and head off into the world. And now you get to see the first beginning ship.
Alright, Cutter. This here macro is stripped down, but there's still plenty there for us to sink our teeth into, such as how we're going to deal with the pressurized areas. But before we get into all that, let's try out your tethers. Your tethers are far stronger than the line on...
So here we get to see the first use of the tether. So we're going to go in here and we're going to hit it into the target we want, and then we hold down the button and we direct it where we want it to go. Now the great thing about this is we're able to predetermine kind of the route we want the nacelle to take, and then we go ahead and we cut that nacelle just right and it falls away, which is a really efficient way. It takes away that idea of dragging it with the grapple. So it's at this point in the tutorial, or kind of the first stage, that I'm really starting to say, oh, I feel like a shipbreaker now. I'm making decisions about how to put my tethers in and where I'm going to cut, and it's sort of starting to feel more like the game I was hoping it was going to be.
Pretty creative with how you use them. Alright, now for the fun stuff. And when I say fun, I mean incredibly dangerous. Next, we're going to learn about pressurization. According to LYNX, decompression events are the #1 cause of death, and as a result, cloning. Alright, let's open up your scanner and see what we see. Let's see if we can crack into this ship without making her pop. See that airlock over there? Let's go check it out.
So pressurized systems is really interesting because if you have a pressurized system, you're not going to use your oxygen, which is eventually going to start going down. On top of that, you don't want to decompress a department because you can get sucked out into space, debris hits you, you can take damage. So it's really interesting how this mechanic works. You got to be very, very careful that you do it correctly.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there, Cutter. For now, let's get inside. Alright, let's see if there's a way to depressurize this sucker so we can get to work on it.
So just when I was saying being very careful, I went ahead and depressurized part of the cabin like this. So now I've depressurized this room. Then I opened the door and had a minor decompression event because the other room was pressurized. So not a big one because it's one small room, but you can see how this might work if a whole vessel decompressurized.
There she is, the reactor. That's your meal ticket right there, Cutter. Alright, this one's pretty easy. She should just slide out of her coolant casing with a good yank from your grapple. But before you do that, it's always a good idea to clear a path for her straight to the barge, because once you pull it, she starts melting down. And when it comes to reactors, you never know how many ticks you got till she goes boom.
So you have to be careful pulling the reactors out because they do explode and can cause a lot of damage, and if they go off they can rip the ship apart. So it's clear that you have to sort of, what I did here is create a path. I then pulled it out with a tether, I made sure nothing could touch it, and therefore I was doing it most efficiently. But I could see as the ships get more complicated with fuel lines and coolant, it's like, okay, what do I do, in which order, and how do I do it, right? So I think this is going to be a great challenge as the game develops and brings on more and more complicated vessels.
Processing valuable object. Credits awarded.
So here we go. We're going to pull this reactor out, we're going to tether it down, and watch the sparks fly as this thing comes out of the hull. And we just want to stay out of its way.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Now I'm just going to let you enjoy the rest of the video with some gameplay. We're going to go and break out a few more panels here. We're going to go and complete this work order, and then we're going to go back to our hub. I think this game has a lot of potential. It was a lot of fun. I could definitely see this developing into a real sort of speed game, like how quickly can I break different classes of ships down, or can I get the reactor out in under 30 seconds by decompression or something, right? So if you found this video useful, if you enjoyed this content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Thank you very much.
Well, Cutter, looks like you can manage on your own for a bit, which is good, because I just got assigned another worm on a salvage station on the other side of Earth Village. Just a reminder that your training amounts for O2, tethers, and fuel will be reset once you start your next shift. I'll be back to check in on you from time to time, but until then, remember this. Measure twice, cut once, and tethers are your friends. Good luck out there, Cutter. Weaver out.